Welcome to Patriots Corner Live with Dr. Hill Law, your source for unfiltered conservative analysis. We're here to dissect this week's biggest stories in politics and the economy, all from a grounded conservative perspective. No spin, just straight talk about what matters to you. We'll delve into the issues shaping our nation, hold our leaders accountable, and discuss and debate solutions that uphold our core American values. If you're new here, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring bell so you don't miss any of our future streams. Sorry, trying to get my phone here. Also, that's all right. There is a rot. There is a rot in the heart of the modern Democratic Party. It's like a sickness in the roots of a great tree, one that's been growing for years, festering the dark concerns of academia and radical activist groups. But now it's not hiding anymore. It's burst right out into the open. Just recently, in a result that should send a chill down the spine of every American who values freedom and prosperity, the Democratic Party in New York City nominated a self-proclaimed card-carrying Democratic socialist as their candidate for mayor. The man who defended an establishment figure isn't just another liberal. He is an avowed member of the Democratic Socialists of America, an organization whose stated goal is to dismantle the free market system that has built this country. In today's episode, we will take a look at the lies of the Democratic Party and how their so-called new socialism is nothing but a ploy to do what we fought World War II and World War III to stop from spreading across this world, along with the Korean War, the Cold War, and the Vietnam War. Please join me as I expose the left's lies for their direct threat that they pose to the freedom and the fundamental American values and private property of ownership that we so hold dear. You can catch Patriots Corner live 3 evenings a week on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and Facebook. If you can't catch it live, you can listen to all the episodes on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, about an hour and a half live after we go live. Also, check out our website at Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. Again, that's Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. Your engagement is crucial to the success of Patriots Corner. If you have a question or want to make a statement, please do so. I'll review them at the end of each segment, read a few comments out live, and answer any questions from respectful comments that foster intellectual debate. Your feedback is invaluable in shaping the discussion. Also, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to keep the conversation going. Before I get started, just take a little drink. Like I said, at the end of each segment, I will try to see what... Let me get my other chat up. I will look at my messages, see what's going on, see if I have any, check them, and then I will go on to the next one. So that's not what I wanted, but all right. Oh, I got everything going. Let's go ahead and get started with get going here. All right, let's be crystal clear about what that means. Calling this Democratic socialism is like calling a wolf a support animal. It's a gentle name for a dangerous predator. It's the ideology that starved millions in the Soviet Union, that turned Venezuela from a prosperous nation into a humanitarian crisis, and that build walls to keep people in, not out. And now it's the banner under which the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City is running. But this isn't just a New York problem. This is like finding termites in the foundation. It might start in one corner, but it's a sign of an infestation that threatens the entire house. This nomination is the clearest signal yet that the radical left has completed its hostile takeover of the Democratic Party. While they're nominating candidates who openly call for policies ripped from the pages of Marx and Engels, their allies in Washington are waging a second front in this war, a war on your family's finances. Right now, a massive debate is raging in the Senate over taxes and spending. The battle lines are clear. One side wants to prevent a massive tax hike on working families, and the other is refusing to touch the entitlement programs that are acting like a runaway train driving our country towards bankruptcy. This isn't a coincidence. It is a coordinated assault, like a pincer movement in a battle. On one hand, you have the ideological shock troops pushing for government control. On the other hand, you have the political establishment in Washington, D.C., engineering a fiscal crisis that makes people desperate enough to accept those very same radical ideas. They want you poor, dependent, and compliant. And with this nomination of a socialist in New York and a disastrous budget battle in the Senate, they are closer than ever they have ever been to getting what they want. Today, we're going to connect the dots. We will expose the radical agenda of this new face of socialism piece by piece. We'll break down the catastrophic economic consequences of the Senate's reckless agenda, and we will show you that these aren't two separate battles. They are two fronts in the same war for the soul of America, and it's a war we are in danger of losing. Now, for the segment one, that was the Trojan horse of democratic socialism. To understand the threat, we have to understand the man who represents its new smiling face, Zohran Mamdani. He's packaged by the media as a fresh voice. They'll tell you he's a former housing counselor who just wants to help people. But that's like admiring the beautiful paint job on a Trojan horse, ignoring the fact that it's filled with soldiers ready to burn the city down. His entire political ideology is built on an ideology of division and state control. All right, this guy this isn't some new form of socialism. Mamdani is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. The DSA isn't just a club, it's an organization that advocates for the end of capitalism. Their vision is a society where the government controls the economy. Not a free economy. They use soft words like economic democracy, but what they mean is the government seizing the engine of our economy. They say social ownership, but they're talking about the confiscation of private property and the public takeover of everything from energy to the internet. This is a fundamental conflict of visions. For centuries, America has been a nation where you are the captain of your own ship. Zohran Mamdani and the DSA believe the opposite. They believe the government should be the captain, the navigator, and the owner of every ship in the fleet, telling you where to go and what to do. Let's not mince words. When you examine the policies, it becomes clear why critics are calling this pure communism. Mamdani's platform is a 5-point plan for economic demolition. It's not some new form of freaking socialism. It is communism. First, city-owned grocery stores, the government would become your grocer. He claims this will lower prices, but that's like asking a sloth to win a foot race. Government-run enterprises are inefficient and wasteful. The idea that a city that can't fill potholes can manage the complex logistics of feeding millions is laughable. Second, a rent freeze and massive government-controlled housing. Rent control is like trying to solve a drought by outlawing high water prices. It just ensures there's no water for anyone because no one has a reason to go find more. It destroys the incentive to build and maintain housing, making it less affordable. Third, fare-free city buses. As the old saying goes, there is no such thing as a free lunch. A free bus ride isn't free. You, the taxpayer, pay for it through billions in new taxes, which will strain the system and likely lead to worse services. Fourth, a $30 per hour minimum wage. This isn't an economic policy, it is an economic death wish. It's like forcing a small fishing boat to carry the cargo of an ocean liner. It will simply sink. Small businesses would be crushed, forced to either fire their workers or close their doors for good. Fifth, universal city-run childcare. Again, the pattern is clear. Take a service provided by thousands of small businesses and turn it into a single faceless government machine. This would destroy countless women-owned daycare businesses and put the state in charge of raising our children. Look at what the Nazis did. That's exactly what Hitler did. Oh, give me your children. I'll raise them for you. And look where it got you. Individually, each of these proposals is a disaster. Together, they are a blueprint for turning New York City into a laboratory for collectivist failure. And don't be fooled by the word democratic. It's just sugarcoating on a poison pill. It's like in the Matrix, take the red or the blue pill. As we come to the end of our first segment, I would like to remind you to please like, comment, follow, or hit the subscribe button so you won't miss future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions and reply to a few comments before starting the next segment. Please don't forget to check out our website at Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That's Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. You can sign up for free to access our weekly blog, receive notifications about our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which takes you to our locals community. There you can support the show, gain access to extra content, and participate in one-on-one discussions. Let me see. We got 3 in, but nobody coming yet. Still got a couple people in here. So let me get my drink and I'll go on to segment 2. Hey, the great American heist. How Washington is destroying your wealth. The defenders of this new socialism will tell you this time is different, but history screams a brutal, bloody warning. Every time this ideology has been tried, it has led to catastrophe. It is a poison that has killed more than 100 million people over the last century, and its legacy is one of poverty, famine, and tyranny. Look at the Soviet Union. The Bolshevik Revolution promised a workers' paradise. What it delivered was a prison of nations. Under Stalin, the state's collectivization of agriculture led to a famine that killed millions. The economy, micromanaged by central planners, was a disaster for permanent shortages and stagnation. By the end, the system was so broken that people spent their lives in queues for basic goods. And the only thing not in short supply was the state's propaganda. The Soviet experiment didn't just fail, it collapsed under the weight of its own incompetence. Now, or you can look at Mao's China. His Great Leap Forward was sold as a plan to rapidly industrialize the nation. Instead, it was a great leap into the abyss by forcing peasants into communes and backyard steel furnaces. The regime engineered the deadliest famine in human history, which estimates of the dead ranging from 15 to 55 million people. It was a man made holocaust born from an ideology that sees human beings as mere cogs in a state machine. And least we forget Cambodia under Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge, supported by Mao's China. They sought to create a pure agrarian socialist society. Their method was to declare year zero, empty the cities, and march the population into the countryside to work as slaves in the infamous killing fields. All right. And then they murdered anyone with an education, wearing glasses, knowing a foreign language. These were all capital crimes. In just 4 years, they slaughtered up to a quarter of their own population. This is what every socialist country has ever done. These are not outliers. This is the pattern. From the gray, joyless police state of East Germany, which, with its command economy and Berlin Wall, to the modern day collapse of Venezuela, the story is the same. Venezuela is once one of the wealthiest nations in South America. Then came Hugo Chavez and his socialist reforms. He nationalized industries, imposed price controls, and spent irresponsibly. The result, food production collapsed, hyperinflation destroyed savings, and the country descended into a humanitarian crisis that has caused millions to flee. And the stagnation is crazy. This is the history they don't want you to know. They promise equality, but deliver equal misery. They promise justice, but deliver show trials. They promise prosperity, but deliver empty shelves. Okay, all this stuff of socialism and stuff may sound great when you teach it as a thought or a theory or prospect of something happening in college, but when you try it in real world, it doesn't work. It never has. It never will. There is no new way to do it. Now, as we come to our end of our second segment, I would like to remind you, please like, comment, follow, or hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Also, I will now take any questions. Also, check out our website at patriotscorner.drhilllaw.com, and then sign up for free access for our weekly blog so you can receive notifications for our next live show, and hit the subscribe button, which will take you to our locals community and all that. And then go ahead and jump on to section 3. I mean, I'm sorry. There is no one. You have to destroy. Everybody has to be equal. And no matter how many times they've said it, the people in power always believe that, and especially in socialist societies, they believe that they are the ultimate. They are the God. They're the ones that know best, and they know how to do what's best for you because they went to the best schools and they've got the best. So you think they're going to live just like you? Hell no. They're going to say, oh, well, I've got to be safe. I've got to be whatever. In order for a so-called true socialism to work, everybody has to be equal. Everybody has to work. There's no money. Economics has to be thrown out the door. You're not going to have that to happen. Human beings it won't work, period. Now, the Scandinavian myth, because this is another thing that the left loves to use. When confronted with the mountain of corpses and failed states produced by their ideology, the modern socialist will pivot. We don't want Venezuela, they'll claim. We want Denmark. They hold up the Scandinavian countries as proof that a cuddly, successful socialism is possible. But there's a problem with that. This is perhaps their most dishonest argument. The idea that Nordic countries are socialist is a myth, a complete fantasy. Even their own leaders reject the label. In 2015, the Prime Minister of Denmark, speaking in the United States, felt compelled to state the obvious. I know that some people in the US associate the Nordic model with some sort of socialism. Therefore, I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy. In other words, they practice what? Capitalism. The truth is, Scandinavian countries are not socialist. They are capitalist, free market economies. According to the Heritage Foundation's Index of Economic Freedom, countries like Denmark, Sweden, and Finland are consistently ranked as some of the most economically free and business-friendly places in the world, in many cases freer than the United States. They have strong private property rights, low corporate taxes, and embrace free trade. What they have is a large welfare state funded by the enormous wealth generated by their free market capitalism. They are not socialist utopias. They are successful capitalist nations that made so much money they could afford generous social programs. See, there's another fact is you got to look at all the sizes of all these countries that they just named. Those don't even equal the size of California, Texas, and like 2 other states in the whole United States. All right. That's another reason why you can't compare the United States to Scandinavian countries, because the United States is double, triple the size, double, triple the amount of people, double, triple the amount of backgrounds and religions and races and everything else that affects that money being made and the amount of money to pour that in. We tried that big social experiment back during the Great New Deal, the New Deal era, and it worked great for a while. But then we weren't making enough people weren't paying in to counteract the money that was coming out. And now because of the baby boomer generation, and the fact was that we didn't have enough babies after the baby boomer generation to have enough people to be paying into it while they were retiring, that it doesn't work. So that's why ours doesn't work as good as theirs, is because it happens to be with the way it worked out. Now, in fact, after a flirtation with high taxes and big government in the 1970s and 80s, which led to economic stagnation, these countries reversed course, cutting taxes and deregulating their markets to become more competitive. The socialist dream of a Scandinavian paradise is built on a lie. They are trying to sell you the fruits of capitalism while claiming it's the product of socialism. They point to the prosperous house and praise the termite infestation in the corner, ignoring the solid free market foundation that actually holds the structure up. So, gets back to what I was saying there, is the reason why the Scandinavian countries work is because they are so small. All right. And they have literally pretty much all one race, all one religious background, all one group. And it's a whole lot easier to get all that one group working one way than it is all different other groups. They're constantly fighting each other and pulling away and not working together. And they don't have a country the size of the United States. They've got 3 or 4 countries that aren't any bigger than Texas, California, and I think maybe if you went from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, that you couldn't, Denmark and all those countries still wouldn't cover up all that area. Probably not even population wise either. That's why their system works. That's why it will never work here, is because of that. We have to think about the size of it when it comes to that. So that's the end of our third segment. It doesn't look like we have any new people in here today as far as I can see, so I'm not going to go through it again, but please like, follow, subscribe, share. Check out our website at patriotscorner.drhilla.com. That's patriotscorner.drhilla.com. There you can catch all of our live shows. And like I said, if you sign up for free acts, it's just really to get your email so I can send out notifications of the next live show, because I sometimes, right now, it's hard to, with working a full-time job, doing this part-time, finishing my doctoral degree in law and policy, it's hard to set 3 exact dates and times a week, especially with me and my wife only having one car right now and sharing it. So it's easier if I can just email and let you know the next one's going to be. Because this week, and this last week, I had enough time to do an extra one Sunday, but because I'd done one Sunday, I decided not to do one yesterday and just do it today. So now let's get on to section 4, the Great American Heist. How Washington is destroying your wealth. Now, you might be thinking this is alarming. I don't live in New York, and America will never become the Soviet Union, and that's where you'd be dangerously mistaken. Because while socialists are laying siege to our cities, a more immediate attack is being waged against every single American, and it's coming from Washington. All right? The establishment is setting the stage for a massive tax hike. The tax cuts based in 2017 are set to expire at the end of 2025. If Congress fails to act, it's like a reverse lottery, where instead of winning, every family automatically loses. The average household could see their taxes go up by thousands of dollars, a car payment, months of groceries, or a portion of rent, your rent vanished from your budget, gone. Letting these tax cuts expire is a deliberate choice. By the cynical part is why they need that money. It's not to pay down the debt. It's not to feed an out of control spending addiction like giving more money to a gambling addict. It is because they don't want to cut spending. The real driver of our national debt is the third rail of American politics. Entitlements, programs like Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid are on an unsustainable path. They're unfunded liabilities. The money we have promised to pay but don't have are astronomical, estimated to be in the tens of trillions of dollars. It's a fiscal black hole. Actually, if you look at our unfunded liabilities over the next 10 years, it actually takes our actual unrealized debt to over 156 trillion. Okay, so yet any talk of reform is met with hysteria. It's as if the ship is taking on water and the crew is screaming at anyone who dares suggest patching the hole. They refuse to even discuss solutions. And these are solutions that has to be done by both sides. The Republicans can't say, oh, we want to cut it, but no, we're not really cutting it. They need the Democrats to actually tell the truth and say, look, this stuff has got to be cut. We've got to extend retirement age. We've got to do this because right now our social Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, food stamps take account for over 2/3 of the American spending and borrowing budget. They refuse to even discuss solutions. They would rather let a tax bomb hit middle-class families that touch the programs that are actually driving us forward toward a fiscal cliff. They are choosing to increase your burden instead of making the tough choices. This brings us back to the socialists in our cities. The world the Senate is creating is the exact world that they want to build. A world where your paycheck is smaller, your future is less certain, and you only hope for security is the government. Think about it. When a tax hike shrinks your budget, government run anything starts to sound appealing. This is the two-pronged attack. Washington creates the economic pain, and the radical left stands ready with their socialist solutions to the very problems the government created. That's what it's been for years. They're burning down the house and then showing up with a bucket of water offering to save you, provided you sign over the deed. This is not incompetence. It is a strategy. All right, they're not trying to, this is all in their game. So it's all in their plan. And in my final segment, I'm going to get into the part of this is why they hate Trump so much. It's not because they're afraid that he's going to end democracy or that he's the Nazi or that he's all this. And it's the reverse. They're the Nazis. They're the socialists. They're the communists. They're the ones that want government run everything, but they want it in their so-called equality for everybody. Yeah, everybody that agrees with their equality, their definition of equality. If you don't believe in trans men being in women's sports, if you don't believe in trans surgeries for 5-year-olds, then you're not in their group, their definition of equality. If you're a Christian and you don't support that, that's not their definition of equal. So I can promise you, eventually it will end up with they'll be the ones putting us in jail, us conservatives in prison and in jail, saying we're the bad ones. When we're not telling them that they can't be who they want to be, we're just telling them they can't force us to let them injure our kids because they supposedly want to be with no, they can create their own sports. All right, that's what it comes down to. So, like I said again, please like, subscribe, hit that follow button. Check out our website, Patriots Corner with drhilllaw.com. That's Patriots Corner with drhill.com, so you can get updates for future episodes and times. And also there you can go to support the show. As the sooner I get enough support on this show and get it going, the faster I can spend more time actually on this show and producing it better, trying to get interviews and everything set up and actually possibly turn into a full-time job. But with 3 kids and a wife, I can't do that until I actually start making money. Now, the real reason they fear Trump, Section 5. All right. This entire corrupt system, this great American heist, has one major obstacle standing in its way. And this brings us to the relentless hysterical and unprecedented political war being waged against one man, President Donald J. Trump. The media and the political establishment will tell you their opposition is about defending democracy, that it's about stopping an authoritarian or this or that. Okay, if he's such an authoritarian, if he's such a Nazi, if he's such this, then why did he even allow the No Kings rallies to happen? Then why would any single Republican dare not to vote in line with the bill? Why would any Republican dare to fall out of party lines? It's lies. It's hysteria. Exactly that. They know it's not true, but that's what they want you to believe. They know it's a lie. It is the most cynical projection in modern political history. They don't fear that Trump will destroy the system. They fear that he will save it from them. Trump is a threat not to our republic, but to the swamp that feeds the socialist agenda. He is the one figure who has shown the willingness and the ability to take a sledgehammer to their very foundation of their power. His agenda is the polar opposite of theirs. While they seek to expand the state, he seeks to shrink it. While they protect the bureaucracy, he exposes its corruption. That's why they hate him. Think about it. Eliminating government waste, fraud, and abuse isn't just a talking point for him. It's a direct threat to the ecosystem of dependency the left needs to survive. Every corrupt contract canceled, every useless program eliminated, every dollar of waste clawed back from the bureaucracy is a dollar that cannot be used to advance their socialist takeover. He doesn't just threaten their policies, he threatens the fuel for their entire engine. So he's not a threat to democracy. He's not a threat to the United States. He's not a threat to our capitalist society or our government. He is a threat to the left's socialist communist agenda. That is all he is a threat to. Nothing else. And they are afraid that he will set them back 25, 50, even maybe 100 years if he can get everything done. That is why they have slowed. That's why they have been. And the funny thing is all this power they claim the president has, that's their fault. They have been slowly giving that power to the president, taking it away from Congress and policy so that when they got their socialist president there, he could move all that away. When they got their Supreme Court stacked with socialist, leftist, activist judges, they could stop it. But he came out of nowhere in 2016, got elected those first 4 years, did a good amount of stuff, but not enough to totally set them back because they were able, he didn't really know Washington. He had to go with a lot of rhinos and whatever who really didn't care about anything but becoming rich and being taken care of once the socialist engine took over. But now they tried everything to keep him from being able to get reelected a second time. And then when he did it, they just keep on losing. He keeps on winning. He keeps on setting their socialist communist agenda back further and further and further and further. And they claim that it's because he's anti-American or that he's no. This is why they must stop him at all costs. The endless investigations, the media propaganda, the political persecution, it's not about norms or temperament. It's about survival, their survival. Because they know that four successful years of Trump could expose the rot so completely and dismantle the corrupt structures so thoroughly that their socialist project could be set back for decades, if not a generation. He is the existential threat to their great heist. He is not a threat to America. He is a threat to the Socialist Communist Democratic Party. We stand at a precipice. The coordinated attack is coming from all sides. In our cities, figures who embrace a failed murderous ideology are being elevated as serious leaders. In the U.S. Senate, the political establishment is preparing to hit you with a massive tax increase, refusing to address the entitlement crisis that is bankrupting our nation. Now, while finally the Senate did pass the one big beautiful bill today, but because they changed so much stuff in it now and cut the spending even less than it was. Now it is the largest spending cut in history and all that, but it could have been larger, but they decided to put a bunch of pork back into it. So we'll see if it can pass Congress. But as long as it passes Congress, we have it. But now what the Senate did could throw Congress off. So we'll see. We'll see if it happens by Friday or next week or whatever. These are not separate battles. The socialist candidate in New York, the tax and spend politicians in the Senate, and the political assassins targeting Donald Trump are three prongs of the same spear aimed at the heart of America. The strategy is to bankrupt the nation from the top down, sell socialist poison from the bottom up, and eliminate the one political leader who stands in their way. This is how freedom dies. Not always with a bang. Sometimes it dies quietly when your savings become worthless, when the government becomes your landlord and your grocer, and when a generation is taught that envy is a virtue and success is a crime. All right. The choice before us couldn't be more stark. It's a choice between economic freedom and the siren song of socialism. It's a choice between the American dream, with all its challenges and opportunities, and the socialist nightmare, which has left a trail of poverty and death wherever it has been tried. All right, that's where we are at right now. This is not hyperbole. I'm not being hyperbolic. Look at it. All right, it started with it started with Obama. He was supposed to be the way that started it, and supposed to be the way that the Democratic Party took over one stop Republicans from winning any national elections for the next 50 to 100 years. Luckily, it didn't work. People woke up, started seeing the truth. Maybe not much, but they did. Problem now is they've been brainwashing and propagandizing our children for the last 5-10 years, and especially at the they've been whitewashing history at the college level. So our kids are learning about Marxist and Engels and Mao and Stalin like there's some gods, versus the dictatorous murderers that they were. They're making Marxism look like it's a utopia versus the actual what it's caused. They're teaching the good parts of socialism and the nice dreams and the stuff that works in theory and it works great in the classroom. And of course, everybody would love everybody to have equal money and have equal stuff and not have to struggle and not have to worry about being impoverished and all that. But the problem is not everybody will put out the same amount of will push the same amount to work, the same amount to try as hard as the next person. So you will never be able to have equalness across it, because you can't have somebody who sits there and does nothing but expects to get everything while somebody else has to pick up their slack and work even harder. That's why socialism will never work, because human beings are not that way. We are too selfish and too self-centered to worry about what everybody else thinks. If you want to get equalized money, then quit trying to do all these tax increases, because all these tax increases and all the tax raises that they do, they don't affect the billionaires and trillionaires. They affect the smaller family-owned businesses. That is what has made our wealth gap so big, is because they set all of those tax stuff and everything to where the billionaires and trillionaires, they can actually make all the deductions. They can hit all the deductions, so they're not paying anything. It's the medium-sized and smaller businesses that then have to sell out to the corporations because they can't afford to make it to the next level because of taxes. Then what happens? They get $1 million or $2 million in 6 months to a year, 5, 10, 15 years. That money's gone, and now their family doesn't have that generational wealth that would have if they'd kept the company. That now there's more people that have the money, less people that have it. That's where it happens. If we want to make this world, this capitalism better, we need to remove all these high taxes and go to a flat tax. Remove all these tax deductions, go to a flat tax where everybody's on equal footing, where everybody has an equal chance, versus having this progressive tax system that's literally set up to screw the little guy and benefit the super rich. The people that can lobby to get specific loopholes in there so they can go buy a jet or a yacht to deduct on their taxes at the end of the year. All right, that's what people don't understand, because they don't understand business. So they think, oh yeah, screw the billionaire. Well, the billionaire is the one that feeds you. He's the one he or she's the one that writes your paycheck, that employs you, that runs this economy, that buys the debt from the United States. You going to bite the hand that feeds you? No. Or you're not going to get fed. So quit attacking them. Get the taxes set up to where it's more equal to where the little companies, because you sit there and you want to go, oh, big bad corporations, let's go after McDonald's. Well, the funny thing is McDonald's is nothing but a real estate company. The actual restaurants are owned by your neighbor down the street that doesn't clear more than $150,000, $250,000, maybe $300,000 if they're lucky, because after they pay all of their employees and they cover their cost of the store and their food and their all that stuff, they might make a couple $100,000 a year. They're not multimillionaires, because the majority of these major corporations out there today, everything is done into a franchise. So wake up, people, learn stuff before you actually go out there and just start listening to everything the Democrats tell you. That's where it is. We have to wake up. We have to see this coordinated assault for what it is. The fight is not just in Washington or New York City. It is in our communities, in our homes. We must educate our friends and our neighbors about what is at stake and expose the brutal reality behind the utopian promises. That's what I was just talking about. Because that's what's going to happen. There is plenty of ways to break up this big, huge income gap and get it more leveled out, but without going to socialism and communism, because they don't work. They've never worked. They don't work in small countries. They're sure as hell not going to work on the massive scale ours is. We can't even keep from bankrupting Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. You think we're going to keep from bankrupting a nationalized everything? I mean, come on, look at how bad the most executive agencies are being run. Look at how long it takes to get stuff done. If you've worked with anything that has to do with government agencies, you would know how much longer and how long it takes because of all the bureaucracy, and it's insane. It makes no sense why you would want a government that has nothing to do with that business running the business. The rise of figures like Zoran Mamdani is not the end. It is a warning, a fire alarm ringing in the night, showing us the future the radical left has planned for all of us. And the fight over our taxes, spending, and the very survival of our republic is the fuel they are using to feed the flames. The time for complacency is over. The fight is here, and the fight is now. We must have the courage to stand up and say no. No to the politics of envy. No to the economics of bankruptcy. No to the slow motion surrender of our liberty. This is our country. This is our future, and we will not let it be stolen from us. We have to wake up, people, because if we don't, that's what will happen. So, still see that I've got like 4 or 5 people in here, but do not see any messages or anything in the chats. So I will, that's pretty much everything for tonight. I was going to see if I had anybody in here, but right now I don't see anybody in here. So why is it? Yeah. Okay. I thought I went live in there. All right. Just making sure. Oh, concurrent viewers, none. 5 views total. Alrighty, so I guess there's nobody else in right now. So please join us 3 evenings a week. Usually it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but this week it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. I'm not for sure because I got a reply I got to write Friday. Like I said, times are not exactly set, so please subscribe or follow and sign up on our website at Patriots Corner with drholaw.com. Again, that is Patriots Corner with drholaw.com to receive notifications every time we go live. Each episode will be uploaded and available on Rumble, YouTube, and Spotify, also on Amazon and iHeartRadio within about an hour or two after the show is over. And thank you for watching tonight, and have a good night. And hopefully I will see you at the next show.